Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through 4th and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Dive.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome back to another episode of the Trap or Dive podcast, provided to you by 214 Media, man. How everybody doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you watching all that good stuff, man. I'm Jamal Forrest, got the good man. That's the first time I done said my full name in like 2 years. I just realized that. Mual. That's my name. And here with QB for 223 will be, aka good man AJ, man. AJ, how you feeling today, big dog? AJ must be busy, bro. When I started, I heard him playing some music in the background. He may be at the strip club, so I'm gonna make sure I take it easy and lead this show properly. Hawk, what's going on with you, player? Monty, what's going on? Good afternoon. Hawk says I don't think we'll draft a quarterback next year. Hey man, I wouldn't count that out. I think. Hawk, here you go again. Zoo, what's going on? What's going on, player? How you feeling? So yeah, administrative items out of the way. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We definitely appreciate it. If you are on Twitter, you are definitely welcome to stay on that side. But if you want to be a part of the show, try to migrate over to YouTube so we can see the comments and all that stuff. I can't see the comments on Twitter and Twitch. Make sure you hit that follow button on that side as well. We definitely appreciate it. Okay, so I was looking in the midst of starting this show, I was looking for Rivera's comments. What's today, the 3rd? Rivera's comments from yesterday. Rivera in his presser, he said a few things that was like worth noting, but it was just one thing that really bothered me, right? The other things that he said didn't really bother me, except for one particular comment. And it was about something that he said about the fans or to the fans. Let me see if I can pull it up right quick. Ooh. There's a few things. So like we're going to get into like who should be playing Sunday as well. But I think the main thing is like reflecting on this Browns loss, aka being eliminated from the playoffs. So here it is.
We're gonna put you at quarterback.
Where's the thing at? I can't find the Coach Centric. Change after the bye week. Oh, here we go. On his message to the fan base going into the last game of the season. So the audio is going to do it justice, but I'll just read it anyway. Here it goes. Well, we appreciate everything that they've done. It's Dallas week. We're going to go out and play our best football this time of the year. And we're playing to win. I mean, that's all there is to it. So again, the audio will do it justice because you can hear the tone behind what Rivera was saying. What's going on, Marcus? Appreciate you checking in.
Hey, Maul, you can hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, the tone behind what he was saying was kind of interesting. Because I don't know if you all know, like we talked about this throughout the year. And I think he even had this same type of demeanor last year as well. But like when things weren't going good, and to his credit, I think he's kind of kept like even keel for like the whole second half of the season. But saying that in that manner is Dallas week, right? We appreciate everything that they've done. We're going to go out and play our best football this time of the year, and we're playing to win. I mean, that's all there is to it. I would urge you to listen to it, but I think that's a guy who is pretty frustrated first and foremost, but can admit that there's a larger message that's not being said, if that makes sense. I know it took me a little while to get there, trying to outline everything, but that's the one thing that bothered me out of his presser from yesterday is not understanding that there is a larger message to the fan base to be had. Ron, you just got knocked out of the playoffs, right? In a game that you didn't even know that you could be eliminated. Your team didn't look good at all. And all you have is we appreciate everything that they've done. It's Dallas week. Like sometimes words kind of fall flat unless there's a greater deal of accountability in your message, your direct message to the fan base. Why would they care if you're playing to win? Why would anybody care in this state 2 days or we'll say Tuesday, 1 day after the loss? Why would you care in that state that your team, or why would they care that your team is playing to win? I don't think it works like that. I don't think anybody has the energy to get up after such a down point of the season, where you haven't won a game in a month and you started out 2-5 or 2-4 or 1-4 really, and we got to hear about y'all trying to win in a game that really don't mean anything anymore. That's a little different to me. So Marcus, I'm about to get you in right now. Hold on 1 second. He said, "What's up, fellas? Listen to Linnell on the Burgundy and Gold show. He brought up the points how Rivera messed up the quarterback situation. All right, what's going on, AJ? Talk to me."
Nah, I mean, like I had said earlier in the season.
All right, hold on. Nah, it's your audio. Check your settings if you can, because I can hear you, but it's static. It's a lot of static.
Can you hear me?
See what's your audio talking about? You like your mic and speaker?
Yeah, can you hear me better now?
Yeah. You good?
Yeah. What I was saying is, like, earlier in the season when I had stated and providing wins, like what is that doing for this team? You're not making the playoffs. Like, you're just winning. You just sit at home still. Like, you're putting yourself in a worse position draft wise. It just, I don't know, man. It just doesn't make sense, and it's just unfortunate that this team is going up for sale at this point of him. You just gotta hope that he gets rid of himself and resigns.
Yeah, and somebody else asked me, like, what does accountability look like for Rivera at this point? And like I think there's several things that you think about. First off, the playing to win thing. Look, I get it. Like your mindset could be playing to win, and my first thing too. Also, when I heard that comment about playing to win, was like, oh my goodness, he's gonna play Taylor or Carson. And while I don't put that past them, that comment doesn't necessarily mean Sam Howell isn't going to play. But even to that point, like Logan Paulson is a guy I respect in terms of like understanding, his eyes from a film aspect. And now that he has, his gig with Washington, he does have a little bit more access than anyone else that's closer, or around the team. And he was mentioning that there is this possibility that Sam Howell just really isn't ready. And whether or not that's true, like not doubting his words, but whether or not like Sam Howell is capable of going out there and executing, that's one thing. But if the coaches don't see it, I I, I don't know like what can be so wrong or so slow in terms of development that you had 17 weeks in a whole all season and you can't perform in one game. Like I don't think anybody is that bad to have that much time to learn and pick up on a game plan that shouldn't be too far away from what you were doing with Taylor Heineke. I'm not gonna say Carson Wentz because they dropped the goddamn ball last week against the Browns. That was different. So I don't know, AJ, why there's this thought within the organization at least that, or they're trying to push out that he's not ready yet. I don't get that.
They're not coaching up guys. That's really what this all boils down to. Aside from Sam Howell, you got Chris Paul that's not getting any looks at guard when you need guard play. They're just not getting any type of good.
All right. I've been kind of in and out of these shows, so I don't know if you talked about it, but I am curious. Who do you think we should play against Cowboys, and who do you think we will play? We can get into that now.
Yeah, my
Essentially,
bad.
so
They're not being coached up, so that's where the issue is really coming into play. There's no reason that Sam Howell, who's played a lot of college football, isn't ready to play in a game. I mean, he was really one snap away if Taylor had got injured from playing in a game because he was the backup. So it's like he would have had to be ready anyways. It's just the coaching staff is just scared to push guys forward, and possibly even look bad in the process, because then it'll be like, why didn't Sam play sooner? Why didn't Chris Paul get a sooner look at guard when you had injuries to Trey Turner? You're rotating Cosme at guard. You have Norwell, who doesn't look good. They just don't want to take accountability for their coaching mishaps. They just try to like push it on the players sometimes too much, and don't ever say it's my fault for not putting these guys in the proper position to succeed and win games, or giving them the proper opportunity. A lot of the guys on the team that weren't penciled in starters got their opportunities by force due to injury, not because the coach has seen something in them and they try to elevate them for those opportunities just by force.
so there's two things. All right, Zoo, I'm gonna get right back to you. Al too brought up something that's interesting. Um, I I think that has a lot of validity to it. Al too. The game plan part. I can't speak like into detail about what you can do to protect Kyle. Like obviously, to insulate him, you gotta have Terry out there. You gotta have Curtis. You gotta have Jahan. You gotta have them out there from your weapon standpoint. Running backs is I would I think we would all prefer Brian Robinson, but he's a little banged up apparently, and he may not even it may not even worth putting him out there. Same thing with this is a side note, the same thing on the defensive side. Chase Young showed you a lot in 2 games, but now he's playing. Y'all are playing for nothing. So if he's recovering, you got to think about whether or not it's worth him coming back out there for the third game. But back to the offense. Sam Howell. Look, there was 2 things that was noticeable in preseason. It was how he was protecting himself and seeing the field particularly well. Like it wasn't perfect. And I gotta look back my notes to kind of see exactly. I gotta refresh my memory, but it was 2 things. It was just how he protected himself. It wasn't that good in terms of like how uh how he was doing when the offensive line broke down. Like he can scramble, right, if he sees the void, but that's one thing. And the other thing was more so um just really understanding what he's processing. I don't know. It's different and in my memory shoddy, so I don't want to continue down that lane. But in terms of like Scott Turner trying to find a way to really make sure that Sam Howell is protected against a Cowboys defense who's not really resting their players. This is a game that they have to try and win. That's gonna be one thing. And I don't know. I don't want to make it seem like this guy is going to get sacked like 10, 11 times. He may take 1,000 hits. I don't know. But it's just hard for me to like envision a quarterback who is incapable of doing anything in this instance. Um, I find that hard to believe after we just saw Carson Wentz, who just looked terrible. Like he looked terrible. Um, you can take terrible from a rookie, but you can't take terrible from a $28 million quarterback. I can take terrible. There's nothing and that's me thinking on like the worst case scenario side. The best case scenario, I'm sitting here thinking that your man can get a 300-yard day. That's the best case scenario. So Zoo had asked, who do you think will play against the Cowboys, and who do you think we should, and who do you think will? I think that's interesting because like Cam Curl and Benjamin St. Juste, right? Like, what's your goal? If Ron Rivera says he's trying to win, then in theory, if they end up being healthy for week 18, they should be on the field. That's defensively. And technically, in that same theory, Chase Young should be playing. Offensively, who are we looking at? I do think that you can try to win with your rookie, but in living up to his theory, I don't trust Ron. I think Ron is very much capable of keeping Carson out there. And I think that percentage is a little bit too high right now than I would really want to accept. Like, I think that there's like about a 40% chance that Carson Wentz can be on the field this Sunday. And that's high. That's real high. But yeah, quarterback is probably the biggest thing. That's the most obvious thing that we all really want to know about. And I guess the good thing is, because today's Tuesday night, I think we'll have an idea of who's going to be starting tomorrow in that presser, and also whoever the quarterback is that comes out on the presser, because that's when the quarterbacks, have their moment to the media. So I think the good thing is we'll know for sure tomorrow. We should know for sure tomorrow. But yeah, that's that. I think there's another thing too that Ron Rivera mentioned yesterday that just sheds light into. I mean, it's been talked about already, but we're going to go ahead and bring it up here on this show. He evaluated himself on how the coach-centric philosophy has gone for him, and he said, "I think the biggest thing that's been the toughest thing right now is being able to solidify the QB1 spot." I mean, that's something we're continuing working on. I believe Ben said that this offseason he'll help us to look for the QB1. And that's the thing that we got to do. I was asked this question about 8-9 weeks ago. What's the difference? Well, that's the one position we've got to solidify moving forward more so than anything else. So Ben, I assumed was Ben. Oh, that is not. I think Kyle Weaker is a special teams guy. Who the hell is Ben? AJ, do you know who Ben is?
Do I know who Ben is?
Yeah, Ron Rivera said yesterday in terms of the quarterback that I believe Ben said this offseason that he'll be helping us to look for the QB1.
I don't know who Ben is.
My fear in this though
who is Ben?
I think he was saying I remember this now too. I think he was saying Ben Standig. Like, I think he was joking. I think he said Ben, as in like Ben Standig in the media. It's going to help us look for QB1. And I may be way off, but in the moment I was like, who is Ben? That doesn't make any sense there. I don't know any Ben on their coaching staff. So is he outsourcing? And then I said Ben, the other Ben that I could think of is Ben Standig. I don't know who a Ben is on that roster. I mean, on that coaching staff. Anyway, he said that Ben will help look for QB1 in the offseason. But the major thing that he said was quarterback one. 8 or 9 weeks ago, he had mentioned that, he had brought up Daniel Jones. And he talked about, I haven't seen the game against the Indianapolis Colts, but apparently Daniel Jones looked really good in a big spot for those guys. But Daniel Jones looked really good, handled business. And I think from his aspect, if I can remember exactly what he said, it's just the fact that they have something to build off of and that they've been around for some time. Now, there was some flawed statements or flawed facts in his response, Ron Rivera's response, saying that, Daniel Jones has been around for some time. Obviously, he has a new head coach. He has a new offensive system that he's learning. So it's not like everything is 1-to-1. But I think ultimately, I don't know. Like, my biggest thing is I don't know if Ron Rivera should even be trusted this season moving forward, this offseason moving forward, trying to find that QB1 spot. And I don't even know how you get there. Like, he may convince himself again that free agency is the right way to go. And I'm not saying it's the wrong way, but I'm saying, like, open up your eyes to the idea that it could be a rookie or that it could be the current rookie on your roster. I don't know if he's willing to go through those ups and downs, those ebbs and flows. And it's kind of to what AJ said. I agree as well. Like, I don't think these guys can really develop that specific position. Specifically Ron and specifically Scott. I don't think they can do it.
I mean, and Maul, my bad, I kind of been in and out, but yeah, that's why I sent y'all that video. I mean, not the video, but the screenshots of the quarterbacks that they've had in Carolina under Cam Newton, even when he was like fading away in his career with injuries and stuff of that nature. They were bringing in guys like Kyle Allen, third round pick. They took Will Greer, Taylor Heineke. Like these guys have never developed a quarterback. Some people want to say Martin Hurdy has this tenacity for finding quarterbacks. I mean, Cam Newton was the fucking all consensus number one pick in the draft. Like that's a no brainer.
Oh my goodness. Are you talking about the spaces thing earlier? I meant to ask you about
I mean,
this.
it's spaces, but it's just people in general. It's like, oh, he really knows what he's doing with quarterbacks. I mean, they did the same thing with this whole Carson Wentz like journey of picking somebody for this year. It's like, bro, like Cam Newton was the best player in college football and maybe one of the best of all time. Like even Ray Charles could have picked
And he
him.
was
You
the
feel
number
me?
one overall pick. Like you could not miss that. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
like he had to do any digging. It was just right there for him.
So you compile that together. You compile even the offensive coordinators like over the time frame. Mike Shula, North Turner. Like it just doesn't add up. I don't trust Ron. I wouldn't allow him to draft nobody, sign nobody, like none of that.
How do you get to the point where how do you get to the point where um I don't see a path that there is any changes at like the big spot. I can see a coordinator change. Like I can see that. I like a coordinator change is the indication that there are going to be more changes moving forward if things are different. Like I can see a coordinator change, and the reason what can lead me to believe that that contract doesn't matter for Ron and company is the fact that he got rid of Sam Mills last year, the um heading into the regular season. Like I can see why the coordinator can get fired. I can see why a coordinator, whether he wants to go Jack right route as well, I can see why they can get fired, even though I wouldn't fire Jack. Um, but I don't see around Rivera getting fired or resign. Like people were saying all things on the table, and I've said that, and I agree that all things should be on the table, like from an objective standpoint. But realistically, there's just no way you can sit here. Like he even said, Rivera said yesterday that he's still going to have conversations with the current owner about the next steps for the offseason. Like, what does that even sound like? What does those conversations even sound like? Like, what does Dan tell, what does Dan tell Ron Rivera about what he needs to do this offseason? I don't even see him having energy for the conversation. It may be like 5 minutes. Like Ryan lays out his plan and Dan Snyder says, let's proceed. Like, do what you got to do. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't. I think the biggest thing this week, or excuse me, not this week. The biggest thing this all season is that Ron Rivera is not happy with Scott Turner, and he makes a move and he tries to get somebody in. And then the side note is, I talked about this on the morning show. Who's going to want to come in for Ron Rivera? There's talent, right, for the Commanders. Like you have an offensive side of the football. You have the weapons in place. You need to find your quarterback. You need to find your offensive line. But is anybody willing to take that chance that a new owner may end up firing you in a season? Is that going to be worth it for you to come in here?
Well,
I don't know.
that's where I said it's tricky. Is like with this pending sale, like the only way you'll really get changed is if Ron Rivera himself resigns. Like we got to remember, Scott Turner was provided an extension in March of 2022 to be the offensive coordinator. I think it was a 3 or 4 year deal. He didn't do anything good up to that point to even garner an extension. Like Ron Rivera is loyal to a fault. Like Jack Del Rio hasn't been the greatest, and even with the bullshit off the field, he still didn't get rid of him. Like alongside with the fact that he's not good at his job. Like I think the defense in some aspect is even overrated but I don't expect him to change, nor do I expect anyone else to want to come into this situation as an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator with a pending sale on the table, because they probably will be switching to a new team the following year. Like, the likelihood of them retaining their job with new ownership and getting new coaches is slim to none. You're better off taking another job or just sitting at home for a year. So it's just one of those situations. How does this team improve? Like, you're pretty much dead to rights. Like, I mean, Ron Rivera, I would be so reluctant for him to pick another quarterback, whether it be free agency or the draft. Like, I just wouldn't want him touching that part of the roster at all. And that's where it's kind of hard to be a fan of this team going into the 2023 season, because
Because
all
you're in
signs
limbo,
point,
bro.
yeah, all signs point to Ron Rivera returning, unless he's trying to keep it close to himself. But maybe we'll know by the weekend. Like, I'm pretty sure something to leak that he plans on resigning. Because I feel like even for him, what's the benefit of you even returning next year when you also know that a sale is pending? You're not about to win over no new ownership.
Especially if
Like,
you know you suck.
yeah, you suck. You know that you're having issues identifying the quarterback position and correcting it. There's no way that a new ownership group is bringing you back. So you're better off just leaving on your own instead of getting fired. Like, do you want to really end your coaching career as being fired as head coach of the Washington Commanders? You might as well walk away on your own. Had a rough year off the field, family wise, health wise, all those things. Is like, maybe he steps in and thinks about those things. But then even the scarier part is, who do they then elevate to be the head coach? Because it would probably have to be someone on the staff already. It's just it's just a lot of things, man. And I think a lot of the players that are going to be pending free agency will have to put a lot of that in the thought, whether it be, the smaller value guys like a Taylor Heineke or Deron Payne. Yeah, they could tag him or whatever, but if you don't have the quarterback position fixed, and on top of that offensive line, and you don't have depth pieces at key positions such as safety, cornerback, your tackles, your guards, and then on top of that, you still don't know who your quarterback is. It's kind of hard to want to come back and play for this team again if you are a free agent, or if you are going to be in free agency and looking to a team to come into. You're going to have to provide me Lamar Jackson, a Derek Carr, for me to get intrigued to come in here and play football for this team, especially under this coach and how they've been maneuvering.
So here's the deal. This is crazy. So I'm looking at the free agents for Washington this upcoming offseason. And listen, you got Wes Schweitzer as a UFA, as a UFA, Deron Payne as a UFA, Trey Turner UFA, Cam Sims UFA, Joey Slott UFA, Taylor UFA, Tyler Larson UFA, David Mayo UFA, John Bostic UFA, and Nick Martin UFA, and Jeremy Reeves. Why am I naming those people specifically? Trey Turner, a guy that they valued enough to bring him in here and start him all season long. Now you're guaranteed, because you better not bring him back in a starting role capacity when you have Sam Cosmi and Chris Paul out here, where you can evaluate them if you want to keep them in as as an option. And then you even got Sadiq Charles as well. But Trey Turner, a guy that they counted on, he's not going to be here anymore. You're forced to go look for that position. Wes Schweitzer, the guy that you counted on to play center and guard for you, he's a unrestricted free agent. Unless he wants to stay around in this mess that may not guarantee him anything, he gone. Cam Sims, I want him gone. And I don't want him gone because he's trash. He's not a terrible player, but he ain't getting no opportunities here. He ain't coming back, but he's good on special teams, so that's one of your guys. But he's gone. So I'm not really. I don't think they're really pressed to find a replacement for like a 5th, 6th string receiver in their offense. But as we continue, Tyler Larson, same thing. Guy that they counted on. He's an unrestricted free agent. David Mayo, John Bostic, two guys that they inexplicably counted on 1,000 times over the past 2 years. They're both unrestricted free agents. You have holes at linebacker. You have holes, further holes in your interior offensive line with all these guys currently unrestricted free agents. They're not going to be under contracts after this season is up. God bless. Like, in the moment, we all thought like moving on from Brandon Sheriff made sense. So I'm not going to do a revisionist history thing, but it's the fact that there was no plan, or the plan that you had was so terrible that you went with Trey and Norwell, right? But if you went for Trey with Norwell and knowing that it was going to be this bad, you was probably better off just signing Brandon Sheriff. I don't understand. Like, there was no plan there. And now with the injuries that piled up, you had no plan for Sam Cosmi. Like, ever since he came back from injury, right, you had him rotating in and out of right tackle. You had him rotating in and out of right guard. Like, there was no plan for the interior offensive line. There was no plan for Sam Cosmi. So these guard positions, this center position where you have two unrestricted free agents at center that's about to walk. And what's the point of even keeping Rui around? Like, at this point, because you have these two centers going, you may have to keep him just for the strength, but he hasn't played with you in 2 years. That interior is a problem. Jeff, appreciate you checking in. Jeff, like I don't know who you are. This team sucks. We're gonna suck for north of 3 years. Just Pope. Hey, bro, Montel's a goddamn idiot, bro. What's going on with you, Dre?
What's good, man? What's good?
Oh, man. So yeah, Holcomb. That's actually, Holcomb is an unrestricted free agent. I don't know if I didn't mention him. My bad. If I didn't, Cole Holcomb is a free agent as well. And I probably didn't mention him specifically, but yeah, he's a free agent as well. But yeah, look, 3 years is rough. It's funny though, like Montel, I don't think that this team has a bad roster. Like from a collective standpoint, I don't think that this team has a bad roster. I think that they have a good roster, but that good isn't going to really take you. Like, I think here's the biggest things, right? One of the conversations that we've had over the course of the past month, the past 2 games, was how Benjamin St. Juste and Cam Curl, their absences / injuries really impacted that secondary. They've been thin this entire season. Like, part of the criticisms or concerns that we had heading into the season was the fact that they were thin in secondary, thin at cornerback specifically. And the issue is, like, when you only have those two, Cam and Benjamin St. Juste, like, if they're on the field with all of those guys and they're playing well, that's good. But you got to know eventually, like, you got to fill that depth role. Like, that's still a good starting unit. Like Cam and Bobby and the roles that they play, these guys, Derek Forrest and Benjamin St. Juste, like, that's a starting roster. That's solid, but you gotta find your depth. We knew that was going to be a problem. But outside of that, with your linebackers, they started to develop. Jamin Davis started to develop. Cole Holcomb, I don't think he was anything good or great, but he was solid enough, and his speed can really overcome a lot of things. Same thing with Jamin Davis as well. That defensive line, it showed itself, right? So I think it's a solid roster, especially on that defensive side, and we know about the offensive weapons. Like, that's not an exaggeration. I think the conversation really comes about if you say that this team sucks or it's going to suck, even though I know you were kind of joking about the 3-year thing. It really comes down to that coaching staff. And I think the scary thing is the fact that they may be around for another year and may not be able to maximize the people that they do have on this roster and overcome or fill in those holes at those interior offensive line spots and quarterback. Dre, I get the floor to you, man, because I've been talking for like 10 years. Talk to me, man. What's your thoughts on the game since we didn't have you on Sunday? and then conversation about moving forward, whether it's week 18 or even the bigger picture.
Well, as far as the game, it was just a choke job. I mean, and it's something like I said, you don't want to see from Ron. We had the conversation, the last couple of weeks, regarding what do we consider disappointment, success, or failure. And to me, this was just utter failure, and for the reasons I listed before, and the reasons that this was a season that Ron convinced fans this was a step forward year. And this was supposed to be the step forward year for a number of reasons. For one, you had a lighter schedule. So Ron and them, I think he was taking that into account as well. He was also taking into account that they thought they had their quarterback. And that just really blew up in their face this season. I mean, Carson showed you early on that he was pretty much toast, but they didn't have confirmation. They wanted to say, okay, well, he didn't have enough time in the offense yet. He hasn't learned the offense. So, you get down the stretch, and we knew that they wanted to go back to Carson. That's all we kept talking about. It was inevitable that Ron was going to go back to Carson because they felt like they had unanswered questions. And we got the answer in a major way when the playoffs is essentially on the line. I mean, and I can't laugh enough about Ron Rivera's comments about, or at least his reaction to the question about him having a chance to be eliminated that day. Like, to me, like I said, if he didn't know, that mean 100 people didn't know. So, and a couple of people told me that that type of stuff doesn't matter, but it does matter. That does matter to me. I mean, because that's a mentality change. I mean, I feel like if that's something that Ron was aware of, it's a point of emphasis in practice all week. You're telling your team, hey, if you don't win this week, you're going home. Now, I mean, if he didn't know, I'm sure the message was just win, control your own destiny. That's probably what they were focused on. But it's a different type of reaction. It's a different type of mentality when you feel like your season can end that game or that Sunday. And that's essentially what happened. Their season ended on Sunday because you're probably not going to see many of the starters this week. They might sit a lot of those guys out because you have nothing to play for. So, I mean, I just thought it was an ultimate choke job. I didn't think the coaching staff had the guys ready. And Carson Wentz just flat out showed you why he has been dumped by two teams in 2 straight years in this league. So now it's going to be a third team in 3 straight years. The eggshells is on Ron's face for this. But as far as the other question, regarding the roster, I agree with you, Jamal. I do think it's a good overall roster. I mean, obviously, you got a couple of things to fix on the offense, the offensive line, and the one major looming question is always who's going to be the quarterback. So who are you going to get this offseason? Who's that guy? Who's choosing the guy? Because, I mean, right now, we're not even 100% guaranteed that Ron is even back next season. I mean, I kind of been speculating on my own that the guy might retire. I mean, he just seems like this is just too much for him at this point. I mean, the reaction to the whole could they be eliminated question was just proof. I mean, Ron just doesn't seem all the way there. Like, I mean, I just feel like this isn't for him anymore. But I do feel like, and I've said this before Ron even took the job. I said the best thing Ron Rivera can do here in Washington is leave this place better than he found it. So Ron may not have any success as far as wins, losses, but I do think the next coach or whoever takes over is going to have something better than what Ron picked it up from Jay Gruden and Bruce Allen's mess. So, I mean, I do see that. You see the roster has improved, but again, I mean, he bought some key spots. I mean, he could not figure the quarterback thing out. And ultimately, that was his Achilles heel with this team.
What would y'all do? So Ron Rivera said, I had said this earlier, so I'm gonna circle back. Rivera said that he's going to treat things as normal this whole season in terms of like ownership. He's going to meet with the owner after after the season is over and talk about next steps. How would you handle that conversation if you were Dan Snyder? Like, I don't necessarily sit here and say like verbatim exactly what you say, but how would you handle that conversation, knowing that this isn't something that are you entertaining the football side? Are you entertaining like evaluating Ron Rivera's job as a head coach? Like, or are you in this spot where you're just here to hear information and say that you were in the meeting because you don't give a damn really about what you got going on? I'm trying to make this money type of deal. Like, what is the nature of that conversation with Ron Rivera? Or am I even totally off about like how that conversation would probably go? Because I feel like it's just going to evaluate next steps and things like that. But I hand the floor. What are y'all going to do if you're in that conversation with as Dan Snyder or in the ownership position, speaking to Ron Rivera?
Me personally, if I'm Dan Snyder, we're assuming that I'm a rational human being here. I mean, because
Yeah,
Dan
yeah.
Snyder's
Look,
not.
yeah.
So
Handle
yeah,
your
if
rational
I'm in
human being.
Dan's shoes and I have a pending sale for the team, I probably just let Ron know, hey, Ron, I mean, I'm not going to make any decisions regarding this team's future because I'm obviously selling a team. This is something that you're going to have to decide if you want to stick around and just, and figure out your own fate with the next ownership, But as Dan, you just never know what he's going to do personally. Like, I feel like he can always just do the dumbest thing. Whatever's the wrong way, Dan's going to take that wrong way. So, I mean, who knows what he would personally say. But again, I mean, if I was a rational owner, I'm going the route of, hey, I mean, I'm gonna leave it in your hands, this fate, because I can't make any decisions going forward about this football team.
Yeah. That's tricky, and it was a really hard question. I don't know. I don't even know how you answered it like that, but that was like one of the better responses you can give. Like, hey man, the floor is yours, player. Um, like if you need to make some firings, if you need to hire, you know what I'm saying, you talk to me. But even still, like, what about free agency? Like, how does that even how does any of this shit work, bro?
I know.
I'm tired of thinking about it. My head hurts. How do you handle it? Like, that's around the time that the ownership is going to change. Are you even going to be able to sign anybody?
Now, and I've been thinking about this too, honestly, Maul. Assuming Ron is staying around, he's gonna, be making this decisions. I feel like if you put me in Ron's shoes and I am standing around because you're standing through this new transition, I'm probably being as aggressive as hell. I have nobody to answer to, with new ownership. New ownership, a lot of things are going to be happening with new ownership. And I think when the sale goes through, one of the first priorities is not going to be football personnel. It's just going to be transitioning, getting all of the staff I need as far as people around me business wise. So you got to think that Ron is probably going to have some real free will in a sense, like even more so free will than he had when Dan was owning the team when you're in that transition, because at that point, the owners probably aren't going to be paying too much attention to it. They probably, until they get fully settled in, and that's when they're going to start making decisions. So Ron, if he is staying, he has probably like a 1 year period, or at least a couple of months period in the off season, where he has the free will to do what he wants. And if I'm Ron, again, I'm being aggressive, especially if you feel like this could be your last year, you're getting fired soon. I'm going after what has plagued me and killed me in my Washington tenure. I'm going after a quarterback. I'm getting aggressive for a quarterback. I'm trading away things because, like I say, his future is uncertain here. So you have to be aggressive.
He was aggressive.
But what does that look like, though? Is that trading or free agents or draft?
Can y'all hear me?
Lamar Jackson. Yeah, we hear you, AJ. Yeah, but Lamar Jackson's an option.
But aggressive landed him Carson Wentz, $28 million contract, potentially giving up a second round pick and guaranteed a third. Like, that's where I feel like this whole situation is just all messed up, especially for the fans, because at the end of the day, he's not going to be able to be aggressive because a lot of these players that he could bring in to correct that quarterback position are going to be driving the boat. They're going to be able to call the shots on if they want to go to Washington or not, because either they have a no trade clause or either they're in a control position such as Lamar Jackson. Even with a tag, they get to call the shots of where they're even interested of going. And this is not an intriguing spot because it's an intriguing spot roster-wise for a quarterback, right? Because of the talent get to play with at quarterback. But the issue is the head coach. You don't know who's coming in as coach. Like, yeah, you could feel beneficial.
Give him a couple seconds. Well, but Dre, what do you think about this?
Once the sale,
oh, here you go. Never mind.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we get you.
Yeah, once the sale is confirmed, like Martin Mayhew, Martin Hurdy, all the motherfuckers is out the picture, bro. Like, Ron Rivera is stuck by himself. That's why I say that I think that he's going to resign. But once again, Ron doesn't have foresight. Maybe he don't see it that way. Maybe he's that arrogant that he thinks that he can win over a new regime. But if I'm him, it's like, man, let me get out of here with my integrity because this is not going to improve. I'm not going to be able to do anything. I'm actually going to be in limbo because I'm going to be working with ownership group that didn't bring me in. They're going to want to bring in their own GMs. They're going to want to bring in their own coach. And I'm just screwed.
But see, AJ, and that's exactly where I would be if I was Ron Rivera. Like, if I'm Ron Rivera personally, I'm done after this year. This is it. I can't take any more of this. And he's been through ownership transition in Carolina, so this isn't his first rodeo with ownership transition. So, and he got fired the same year the new owner came in. So you have to have that in the back of your mind if you're Ron Rivera. So if you're Ron Rivera, you got to be thinking, this isn't what I can't do this another time. But I'm getting the notion that he may be a little bit more stubborn than I thought he was in that aspect, and this is bothering me. Like, it's starting to scare me in a sense because you hear him start talking about Snyder and having a conversation about next season and all of this, that, and the third, and it's starting to worry me a bit that maybe this guy isn't at his brinks in or at his wits in as far as coaching here goes anymore, but. You got to figure how much more of this can he take? Why would he even want to put himself through this another year? So that's why I'm like, I'm with AJ on this. If I'm wrong, I'm just retiring. Like, not even resign. I'm just retiring. Just go live in the sunset.
Like, of course, I want to see my guys.
So it didn't dropped again.
I don't know what's going on, but yeah, I guess what I was finishing off was I hope that they get blasted on Sunday against Dallas. Maybe that'll put more fire into him to step away. I mean, I just feel like how can you not see the writing on the wall? And especially if loyalty is one of your main weaknesses as far as being a coach and not being able to separate yourself from guys such as a Scott Turner, a Jack Del Rio, and other people within your staff, you're going to have to fire somebody. And more than likely it's Scott Turner. And you really don't want to do that because you extended him in March of this 2022. So it's like you got to see the writing on the wall, big dog. If you don't, then something's definitely wrong with you all the way. Because, yeah, when I heard him say in his presser something about somebody helping them acquire a quarterback, I was like, here we go with this Joe Gibbs shit again.
And who the hell was he talking about? He said Ben or something. Who was that?
Yeah, bro, I said the same. I just asked AJ. I said, bro, because it was only one thing I could think about. Two things actually, but I thought somebody on the staff named Ben. I meant to double check. I'm about to look now just to make sure that there's nobody on the coaching staff named Ben. But then I thought that he may have been joking and
about Ben
talking about Ben. Yes,
that's what I thought.
And it was a bad joke.
Like, well, shit, maybe Ben Standing can help him because, like, going after Carson Wentz and before the end of the season, you saying we got to look for another quarterback number one, that means you have no clue what the hell you want in a quarterback because even when they did bring in Carson Wentz, like, the same things that he's been doing his whole career is exactly what he provided on tape on Sunday against the Browns. Like, there was nothing different. It wasn't like, oh, we just seen a different Carson Wentz. That's exactly who he was under Frank Wright, his former coach. And you took him in thinking that you could save him, like you were going to be his godfather or some shit. Like, like you was going to bring him back to life. And you quickly realized that he isn't good either. And you damn sure don't like Taylor Heineke. Because if you like Taylor Heineke enough and you really thought you were winning because of him, you would have never made this trade. You would have been comfortable going into the offseason with a lesser quarterback, either via free agency or taking one sooner in the draft and just rocking with Taylor Heineke and trying to improve other positions within the roster. And instead, you didn't do that. Then you also alienated your whole offensive line. You brought in fucking Trey Turner, Andrew Norwell, to block for Carson Wentz, this investment, this person that's supposed to take you to the next level. It's like you're damaging the team, and the team lacks depth. Like, it's very few position groups on the team that have depth. Like, running back, wide receiver, and even the defensive line doesn't have depth, for real. Like, everywhere else, it's all dudes that they just signed throughout the free agency to take up some space.
Who is Ben, bro? There is nobody on this staff, coaching staff, front office named Ben, bro. Who is Ben?
I was trying to figure that out.
I'm changing the title to everything right now, bro. Who is Ben?
Well,
Who
somebody
the
got to
hell is
ask
Ben
him
that's going to help
who
this man
is that?
figure out the quarterback position, bro? That is impossible.
Maybe Ben Standig the one that asked him the question when that came
I
up.
don't know,
Because
dog.
maybe that, like
Maybe.
you said, he could have been joking.
Maybe let's tweet Ben and ask him, are you the Ben that's supposed to be helping him acquire a quarterback? Because I mean, I just don't see his game plan. I can't see it playing out. Like, they definitely got some weapons to work with, but what more can he do? They just lost a 3rd-round pick, man. Like, for Carson Wentz, they lost a 3rd-round pick for someone that was going to get released. Like, 3rd-round picks are so valuable in this league.
Two
Like, a lot of
third-round
the
picks. They lost one last year and this year.
yeah, a lot of the players that we look at across the league succeeding are 3rd-round picks. You know, you
But
lost
be
that
thankful
pick.
it wasn't a second round because it was almost
Yeah,
a
but
second round
but
pick.
but even look at that. You put yourself
And
at
he
even
won by
more
the
risk
bench.
at a 2nd round.
Everybody be that second.
Yeah, you put yourself at even more risk to lose a 2nd-round pick. So it's like 1st round, you can't even really trust a coach of this nature to go and get you a quarterback, because now the following year is guaranteed a new regime is coming in here. You might have to restart all over because they may not like that quarterback. Then you put yourself in a situation where you're forcing guys upon certain individuals. The Jay Gruden thing, where you hired him, forcing RG3 upon him. And he doesn't really like RG3, but he says it to get the job. And then you're playing quarterback carousel.
I mean, that's Dan Snyder, though. That's what coaches usually had to deal with when Dan Snyder signs them on. I mean, shit, Ron had to take on Haskins when he came here. Gruden had to take on RG3. And I even think there was some truth to the rumors that Gruden wasn't even allowed to pick his defensive staff a lot of the years he was here. So, I mean, that's just the culture that Dan Snyder had built. So hopefully this ownership sale can go through as soon as possible.
Bro, who was Ben?
Hey, just tweet it out and say, hey, Commander fan base, who is Ben?
Yeah,
And
no,
I
I'm
ain't talking about
bro.
Juice. And I ain't
Bro,
talking
that
about
is.
St. Jude. But yeah, I heard it
Roger
live, and I
just
was
brought up
like,
a good
who
point.
is Ben?
We get a comp pick for Scherf this year, I think, right?
I believe so. I don't think it's the 3rd, though.
Let me see. NFL 2023 comp picks. Let's see what we get. Compensatory picks for every pick, projections for every team. Okay, so where is Washington? Let me go down. Commanders. 1, 2. All right, so we have Brandon Sheriff and Tim Settle. 1 in round 3, 1 in round 7. That's the projection.
Oh, wow. So we get a third. We'll likely get a 3rd rounder. Okay.
Likely get a 3rd, and then 1 for Tim Settle. Okay.
Would have been nice. That's fine.
Let me go back to this one. That's where I wanted to finish off on this thing. So because this was around the context of the conversation you were talking about. You be aggressive with the quarterback spot. Hawk asked about free agency as well. How are you attacking free agency if you know that this is kind of your year where it's like, fuck it, like if I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna just go hard in the off season. Like, what does that look like in free agency? Are you going all out, or are you just more so focusing on that quarterback spot, Dre?
If you're Ron Rivera and you're still in that spot, then you're Dan Snyder in 2000. You have to go get every big name free agent. You have to spend money because this is your last hurrah. You have to go out with a bang. Why go out like you have more time? Ron said when he got here, he had 5 years to rebuild this franchise. If he's here next year, that'll be year 4. But technically, he doesn't have 5 years because he'll have a new owner. So he's going to be on the spot auditioning right away. So he has to go out and aggressively attack this roster. I mean, sure, I think we have a good overall roster. You think so as well, Jamal. But the Eagles thought they had a good overall roster last year, but that didn't stop them from being aggressive and going out and getting every big name guy or any guy they can possibly get. And that's what Washington wants to do if they want to be taken serious, because you already got everybody in the division is better than you right now. Everybody in the division is a playoff team. So if you want to be in that conversation or in the mix or even talking about saving my job or making this new looking good in front of new ownership, you have to go all out. You can't sit back and be, bargain shopping in free agency or standing pat in the draft, or if you don't want to go up and get a raw talent or something. So Ron, if he is here another year, he has to be aggressive. If not, he's probably getting fired mid-season next year.
Man, Ron might get fired in March. Like if they finalize this ownership at the ownership meeting, he might get fired in March. Because
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I agree with Dre, but I just don't see him taking that approach. Like of course money talks, but I just don't see him taking that approach. I don't know the entire free agency class, but it's like who could you really add to take this team to the next level? Do you go get a Roquan Smith? On top of that, you need to re-sign Deron Payne. Do you go and get shit? I don't even know. There's not really a top corner out there. Safety wise, I don't believe that there's a top safety or tackle Orlando Brown. I don't really think he's worth the money. Who do you really bring in? Because if we're saying identify quarterback in particular, that move has to be made before free agency. That move is going to be made Super Bowl week for Derek Carr. Like that's going to happen early in Super Bowl week because 3 days after is when his 40 million bonus.
Hey, Ryan trying to hear no Derek Carr.
I don't think we got to worry about him anyway. He said he want to go somewhere with stable ownership. We don't have that right now.
Good. Yeah, we suck. Don't come here. Leave us alone. Leave us alone, dog. All out behind Tiny. Look, first off, out too. You better hope that he even gets re-signed. He ain't coming back.
Taylor Heineke will be working at ODU next year.
No, he won't, AJ. He gonna be backing up somebody. He'll be backing up somebody.
He said he about to be at ODU, bro. That is fucking hilarious.
He'll get a little weak ass deal, but I can't see Taylor coming back under Ron, man. I feel like he even feels slighted by being benched by Wentz too, because I mean he's been with them for a long time, but he's already been replaced by Wentz in the offseason, and then during the season, in his mind, he feels like he was balling. So
all right, so hey, what's the last thing, y'all? Fuck. Have y'all ever forgot something just as quickly as you wanted to bring something up? It really just left my head. Damn.
That's why we drink a lot of Hennessy. That's why I had to get away from that, get on the tequila wave. So this 214 Media podcast Trap or Dive is sponsored by Lobos.
I remember it now, bro. Hey, so what was the conversation? You was in there for a little minute, AJ. So I don't want to make you rehash everything, but what was some of the conversations in the spaces today? I saw you was in there. I popped in and out when I had some time. So what was some of those conversations like? Did it drive you crazy, or you was able to kind of sit around and have those points that you made and then have to listen to some other people? So I remember the one on my way to the gym when you was trying to tell that dude Cam Curl ain't getting no 14, 13, 17 million a year. Like I was like, bro, what?
Yeah, so when we have these shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I try to get into spaces just to hear what some of these dumbasses that root for the Commanders be thinking. It's some dumbasses and there's some people that actually are knowledgeable what they're saying. But for the most part, people are talking about extending Cam Curl. What does his contract look like? People are trying to tell me, after they asked me in particular, I don't want to talk about a Cam Curl contract. I'm like, he'll probably get 3.5 to 5 million, which is a fair deal per year, 2-year extension or something like that. People trying to argue that he should get 8, 10 million. I'm like, this is the problem. People that root for their team think players are better than what they really are. He's done nothing in his career to garner that type of payout. But for the most part, a lot of people were also saying that they're okay with Ron Rivera returning. They just want him to get rid of Scott Turner as offensive coordinator, and also get rid of Jack Del Rio as defensive coordinator. Two things that I don't see happening at all, because once again, Ron Rivera is loyal to, his own detriment. Like, he just
I
doesn't know
agree
how
with
to
that too,
walk
Jay. By the
away.
way, Scott Turner won't be an OC next year if he's not here. I
Oh,
agree with
without a
that.
doubt, he won't be. Because, I mean, he's never been an OC anywhere else. Like, the only person that elevated him was Ron Rivera. He picked him over Kevin O'Connell just because that's one of his guys, not based off of schemes, concepts, nothing of that nature. So that's where it's just like, that's the main thing that they were talking about. They're okay with Ron staying for another year as long as, he gets rid of OC and different things. A lot of people complain about offensive line, depth issues, the quarterback position. And once again, that's where I came into the space and asked certain people, well, how do you want Ron Rivera to return, but then you also have the same person that picked these ingredients to the food that you eat? Like, he's all the shit. If there's issues with the offensive line, you don't like what's happening there, that's on Ron. You don't like what's going on with the depth and positions overall on the team, that's on Ron. If you don't like the quarterback position where he's been able to come in and start Haskins or Alex Smith, Ryan Fitzpatrick, acquire him, then in the offseason he wanted to go after Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson didn't want to come here. That's the only thing that blocked that trade. After failing that, you go and acquire Carson Wentz, $28 million, eat up your cap, and he picks. And now we're not even a full year after that deal. You're talking about in your presser needing to go get a QB1 again. So it's like, what is being evaluated here? And your offensive coordinator is ass. So it's just like, that's the confusing part about the spaces, and that's the confusing part about the fan base too. And then they were trying to focus on Tutty. I mean, fucking mascots for little kids. Like, who goes to a sporting event as a grown-ass person concerned about a damn mascot? I could care less. Like, you want your team to win. I ain't worried about no damn pig. If they winning, don't care what the logo is. The logo could be a piece of shit. Like, literally a piece of shit. As long as they winning, people will
They're
buy
gonna
the
have to
merch.
see me,
People
cuz
won't care.
they're gonna have to see me. I ain't about to rep no team with a piece of shit as a logo.
The Cleveland Browns fans do it.
Right.
Ain't gonna be me. Dan already gone and the family moving to England, so unless Bezos has told Snyder what moves to make on the way out, Ron will be here next year. It is what it is, man. And that's the sad truth.
Y'all know a lot about Daniel Snyder's personal life, boy.
Yeah, they said there was a report, WAPO from Nikki and Mark Maskey said that they listed their prime residence in England or some shit.
He might be trying to buy a soccer team over there. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, that would be. He is trying.
I mean, well, some people think that's what they think he live over there or moving over there for, to buy one of those Premier League teams.
Yeah, well, go ahead and do that, bro, and just make sure you
get the hell out of here. That's all.
Yeah, clearly, they don't want nothing to do with the United States no more, and that's good. That's good for everybody involved. All right, that's gonna wrap it up for us today. We up out of here. There is no morning show tomorrow. I had to change my schedule up. Sorry. I will try to get a film breakdown done, recorded or whatever. So we'll definitely be back Thursday. We'll be back Friday as well in the morning time. So y'all take it easy. Dre, AJ, y'all boys be safe. What do y'all think? Side note, sorry. What do y'all think about that shit last night, man? Because I ain't never seen no shit like that before, dog. Like, I seen it. I seen dude, like, I thought Higbee, like, just from an actual watching the game, I'm like, oh, that's a physical ass hit. Like, all right, I see what type of time Cincinnati on. And then I'm over here taking my little sip, and they like, oh, we got an injury. I had no idea what was going on until they showed the replay of it was the same dude who got up from the hit and fell back down. What was y'all reaction when y'all saw that?
Yeah, man, my prayers to Hamlin, his teammates, his family, friends, all of that. It was tough to watch, man, because it's like immediately when it happened, I knew exactly what was going on. Like, unfortunately for me, I've experienced, not personally, but like around me, my mother in particular, she had a massive heart attack. And, while they were operating on her and then transported her, like airlifted her to Fairfax Hospital, got her there, she ended up going into cardiac arrest. So I know what that looks like. I know what that, feels like from the outside looking in, like your loved one not breathing anymore. They were able to get her oxygen again and breathing after 30 minutes. But as you can imagine, when you can't breathe, you're not getting any oxygen to your brain. So the neurological aspect of your brain isn't functioning. So what those guys witnessed pretty much last night on the field was their teammate dead, essentially. He was dead, and they were trying to bring him back to life with CPR. Even that's why there's no update now, because like when that type of occurrence happens, they end up having to incubate them and putting a tube in their mouth, and then they have to cool the body to see if the brain will function, if any functionality will happen with the brain. So probably by tomorrow, should kind of know where he stands, if he's going to be trending in the aspect of recovering, or
Yeah,
unfortunately they might make a tough decision in
to see if
regards
he
to,
can do it.
yeah, either, because I know they put us under a circumstance where it was like we went through a cooling process for my mom for about 4 or 5 days, and they tried to take her off, and there wasn't really no brain activity going on. So pretty much it would have been if we had kept going. So yeah, that's just one of the situation, but I could tell it was blunt force. It put his heart in, and that's what made him go into cardiac arrest. The scary is that's a regular football player. Like,
Yeah.
that happens almost every series. Um,
Yeah, they said it
so
was a
that
very low percent chance of it happening that exact way that it happened to him, and it just so
yeah,
happened to happen to him.
yeah. So it's just it's scary, man. Like, even finding out that the NFL wanted to resume the game after the ambulance transported him 5 minutes later, like that hurt me. Like, in my head, I was like, man, fuck the NFL. Like, I don't even know if I want to watch football anymore, if I even want to be a part of this industry anymore. Because it's like there's a human element that's missing from all of this. Like, these guys aren't robots. These guys are human. His mom, his friends, his sister, his girl, whoever is in the stands watching this happen live. His teammates are watching, and even guys that are not his teammates. It's 60,000 plus people watching this man fight for his life, and him not even knowing what's going on. And you have the NFL still thinking about resuming the game and not factor in the mental standpoint of the individuals that just had to witness this tragic incident. So I mean, like I said, man, my heart kind of been heavy on it, bro, because like it affected my family with the cardiac arrest thing. Couple months after my passed away, I tried to go on vacation. I'm heading back home. I got a layover. I'm seeing somebody go through a cardiac situation right next to me and die. So it's just like I've been seeing that way too often last year or so. And when it happened, man, I immediately knew. But I just hope that he pulls through. I hope that the youth and him being active is on his side and he trends in the right direction.
Yeah, man. It's a lot, bruh. And I think that's a good spot to end it, fellas. Because like you went through the whole thing, to the point where I didn't even kind of understand or wasn't quick to understand it, which is understandable, but yeah, like that's just different, man. Jay, you're right. Hope his dude lives, man. Um, yeah, I don't know about playing. I don't know anything. But yeah, I guess we'll monitor and kind of see what's going on, and also then think about like the aspect of like having to make that because like there was something that came out that said that he was at 100%. Now he's at 50% in terms of like the oxygen being sent to him. But I don't even know what that means. Like I just said, okay, we'll see a little bit more later. But yeah.
I wouldn't read into a lot of those reports because like I feel like you actually have to have went through that situation to understand. Because it's like I seen one of his representations marketing guy put out there like his vitals are normal. Yeah, they're normal because he's operating for the machine. The machine is doing all the work for him. So until they disconnect the essentially like life support, you don't know how he's functioning or how his brain is taking to it. It hasn't been 24 hours yet. That's coming soon. And, you know, like I said, hopefully he trends in the right direction. But yeah, man, it's just scary because that's a regular play that you see in all levels of football, even little kids, man. Like, but they try to take offensive players from lowering their helmets in the guy's chest to like truck them, but you know, maybe they try to add some chest padding or something. I don't know going forward. Really don't know how you remove that part of the game altogether. It's just gonna happen.
Yeah. That was a conversation I had with my friends about the youth thing in high school, like their high school sports, their high school coaches. And my boy was like, he was nervous. You know, just thinking about it and looking about it, because it's like, yo, we don't have the staff, we don't have anybody capable of quickly identifying this, getting this guy the help that he needs, getting this player the help that he needs. Like that shit, he was like, that shit is scary. That shit is scary to him, bro. Because it's like if something happened to them, like they're really shit out of luck. Just understanding the odds. So it's rough, man. It's rough to think about. But yeah, that's it, man. Appreciate everybody who tuned in live. Appreciate everybody who's watching on the replay. Definitely appreciate it, man. Y'all take it easy. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your night. All that good stuff, fellas. Y'all be safe, man. I appreciate y'all as well. We'll tap in on Thursday. We out of here. Peace.